You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Meg 2, Sharknado. Not really Sharknado. But the weirdest thing about this follow-up to the very lackluster Meg, so the Meg was, it should have been a B movie that crossed over to being an A movie and was, knowing and what the Scream movies try and do, which is sort of reference all the other movies from that genre. A knowing remake of Jaws, making Jaws 5 million times bigger, and it was the idea that there was this trench at the bottom of the ocean that was segregated from the rest of the ocean. So the sharks that are living down there were these megalodons from the Jurassic period or whenever it was, and one broke free and terrorized everyone. And it was a total damp squib of a film. Jason Statham starring, very dull cast, and it not enough happened. It was too dull. The cast was too rubbish, and it only sort of fired up in the last sort of 20 minutes for the carnage that you'd been waiting for. It wasn't an interesting film. It was a letdown. So we got Meg 2, and they've replaced the director with Ben Wheatley. Ben Wheatley is very strange and very interesting choice here. So he was almost an enfant terrible of British cinema. His film Kill List from 2011 remains one of the most traumatic experiences in modern cinema. And the ending, oh my God, it is a brilliant film and definitely one that should come with warnings before anyone watches it. Astonishing psychological horror movie with not really much in the way of precedent, and made Sightseers, which is this incredibly black comedic satire of I guess a Mike Leigh sort of English seaside holiday people going on caravanning and camping trips throughout the English countryside but being serial killers. And that was magnificent as well. And then he did A Field in England, which was like the most art house film about a group of medieval soldiers tripping off their nuts on mushrooms. They get lost and they end up eating all these mushrooms in the middle of some civil war battle in the Middle Ages, and spend the whole film just tripping. It is a very dark, very disturbing film. And then he sort of came towards the mainstream with a little bit with High Rise, a version of J.G. Ballard's novel set. I think he wrote that in Thatcherite England, about a dystopian future where the occupants of a large tower block are divided amongst class lines. So the working class are at the bottom and treated horribly, and then the middle class in the middle and the upper class at the top. And it was, a dystopian societal paradigm thing, like Snowpiercer, but in a building, I guess. And then he did Free Fire, which was like a one-shot gun battle in a warehouse, which was good, but it wasn't great. And then since then, it seems to have got very strange for him, because he did a remake of Rebecca by Alfred Hitchcock, which I trashed. And I didn't see In the Earth, which he did in 2021, which is a sci-fi film which has got much better reviews, but Rebecca was terrible. And what he's doing, helming the trench 10 years after, or 12 years after making Kill List, is anyone's guess. So this is the same group of people, but it doesn't have I think the Chinese actress. I'll just look her up, because she was a model, but she was probably one of the most appealing characters, Li Bingbing. And she's very famous, I think. I think she's one of the most famous Chinese actresses. I don't know why she's not in this one. Because she was even though she was I think she was a model turned actress, but she was one of the most appealing characters, and her relationship with Jason Statham was one of the only interesting things in the whole film. Instead, we get her child, who is actually really appealing. Wu Jing, I think. No, not Wu Jing. Wu Jing's the uncle. Shuya Sophia Kai. And there's no entry for her on Wikipedia, so I assume that she is a fairly new to the world actor. And she's really good. So it retreads virtually the whole first film. but does virtually everything better. It's a more interesting, if still dull, first half of the film where the Jason Statham's like a eco warrior and works with people like Cliff Curtis. I don't know what race he is in this film, and a few of the holdovers from the first film, who were out in the middle of the ocean doing sort of like they go into the trench where these medieval sharks live, thousands of meters below the surface, and do exploration. And when they're down there, they actually find that there is an illegal mining operation down there, which causes a battle between this illegal mining operation and these researchers, resulting in them all nearly losing their lives, but also blowing a hole in the trench and allowing all of these prehistoric monsters, mainly sharks, but also happily an octopus, to escape from these 20,000 feet below the sea depths and terrorize again a Chinese holiday destination, which is virtually what happens in the original film with more sharks. But this time around, it's a lot more fun. Even though the first half is quite dull and the first 3/4 of the first film was incredibly dull, it's at least more atmospheric and ambitious in what's shown. So I did actually enjoy it a bit through those periods. It's obviously got a bigger budget, and it looks so as well. And the underwater, it's almost like a much more up-tempo version of that Kristen Stewart film Underwater, where they go to these great depths and they have to traipse across the ocean floor and they're being battled by demonic forces of giant sharks, basically, but also other denizens of the deep as well. But it really lifts off, and Ben Wheatley comes to the fore in the final third, which is on the island, which is a holiday beachside destination for Chinese tourists, and it goes absolutely nuts. And that was what was missing from the first film. We didn't have enough of that going crazy. Jason Statham roaming around on a jet ski, leaping in the air, throwing explosive spears at giant sharks is what I signed up for in the first place. And all of that action is done so much more entertainingly than the first film. It beats the first film hands down on every level. And the cast is a little bit more winning. They've dumped Ruby Rose, I noticed. And the kid in it isn't annoying. She's actually quite good. So no one else really stands out that much. Is Paige Kennedy one of the people that stands out? Who's Paige Kennedy? He's the guy that basically plays the role that Roman does in the Fast and Furious franchise. It's like he just facsimiled that exact character. Overall, I enjoyed it. It is still quite boring for a large section of the movie, but much more interesting scenarios and the equipment being used and the variety of... We didn't get enough of the shark in the first film. It was so sporadically used that we just didn't see it enough. And the plot here is sort of like the old, the evil corporation doing nasty things in secret. There's nothing interesting there. But, we get a giant octopus fighting giant sharks with Jason Statham leaping through the air on a jet ski, throwing explosive spears at them, which is great. So I'm going to give Meg 2 a very healthy 7.5 out of 10.